A famed mystery novelist is dead. His throat is slit, and his blood is all over the sofa. We are on a twisting journey through what the family thinks happened, what really happened, and whom has done this. After a renowned and wealthy novelist Harlan Thrombey's 85th birthday, his family leaves for their respective homes, and the following day, his maid finds him dead in his mansion with his throat slit. A week after, Marta, Harlan's personal nurse, is still depressed about this incident, receives a call from Harlan's last son, Walt, that the family is invited for the final police interrogation that day, and she should visit. Marta gets there and she is welcomed by Meg, Harlan's granddaughter, after she meets Linda, Harlan's first daughter, and her husband, Richard. Meanwhile, Richard is having an altercation with his son, Ransom, who refuses to come for the interrogation. Eventually, the interrogation starts. Linda goes first, admitting that Richard arrived at the birthday party earlier than her to help the cooks prepare, and her son, Ransom, left the party earlier than the others. The party was attended by Fran, the housekeeper, Marta, the nurse, and the other family members, including their youngest brother, Walt, in charge of Harlan's publishing company, as his wife, Donna, and son, Jacob. Another member of the family is Joni, a widow of Harlan's son, Neil, and her daughter, Meg, who have remained members of the family after the husband's death, and Harlan's mother called Grand Nana. After Linda's interrogation, Richard comes for his interrogation, and so Joni. At this point, they all notice the presence of a new face with the investigators, and when they ask, they find out it's Benoit Blanc, a private investigator. He questions Linda about Walt's job, asking her if Walt also owned his business. He throws the same question at Richard, who says Walt had always disturbed Harlan to give him the right to reproduce his novels, but Harlan had always rejected the idea. They had an argument about the same issue that night, and Walt returned like a wounded dog after the argument. During Walt's interrogation, Blanc asks him about the argument. He remembers that he spoke to Harlan about allowing him to produce one of their novels on Netflix, but Harlan refuses the idea. Harlan tells him he had done him great evil for asking him to be in charge of the books he had written, and says he will take the burden from him so Walt can also do the things he wishes to do, so he fires Walt. That was why Walt returned to the party angry, but Walt doesn't tell Blanc this. He says it was just a normal work issue. He tells Blanc that Ransom had a heated conversation with Harlan in the private room that evening, which led to Ransom leaving the party, and he should question Ransom about it. Blanc asks Richard if he met with Harlan before the party when he came to help the cooks. He says the chief cook had testified that Richard didn't help them, and she had also testified that she heard a male voice arguing with Harlan before the party in Harlan's reading room, and Harlan had said, "If you don't tell her, then I will." Richard remembers that Harlan showed him a picture of his infidelity, and said he had written a letter to Linda to inform her of his infidelity. This caused an argument because Richard told him to leave his marriage issues, which led to Harlan's statement that, "If you don't tell her, then I will." However, during the interrogation, Richard denies this. He says the statement was because Harlan had decided to take his mother to a nursing home, and he knew Linda will be against it, so he wanted Richard to tell Linda first. Richard says that Joni was also at the party early, and they should ask her about her involvement too. So Blanc questions Joni. She claims it's just an issue about the mix-up of Meg's school fees. Meanwhile, it's because Harlan had caught her stealing Meg's tuition from him, and he has decided to cut her off financially. After the interrogation, Richard finds the envelope Harlan threatened him with, but it's empty. The detectives insist the issue is a suicide, and Blanc shouldn't push it, but Blanc finds Marta. He knows that she is someone who can't lie, and when she does, she pukes. By asking her questions, he finds out the others have lied to him. He tells the detective that he was hired anonymously by someone who just dropped an envelope of money for him, so he must get to the root of the matter. He interrogates Marta again, and she remembers all that happened that evening. That evening after the party, she took Harlan to his room, but he insisted on playing a Go game before his medication. He loses the game and scatters the table, mistakenly throwing off his meds. When Marta prepares to give him the meds, she mixes them up and gives him an overdose of a drug that should kill him in 10 minutes. She tries to find an antidote to it, but she can't find it. When she attempts to call the ambulance, Harlan stops her, saying that if he dies and she is arrested, she will be putting her mother, who is an illegal immigrant, in danger, so she shouldn't call for help. He says if she follows what he tells her, she will be fine. He tells her to leave and greet him loudly, if possible, say the time, then park beside the elephant shape by the road and walk through the back door into the house. He tells her to climb the window into the house, then take his clothes and cap and go downstairs so Walt will see her. That way, she will be not a suspect in his death, as he will be presumed to die about 20 minutes after she has gone. Reluctantly, she agreed. He told her that since she can't lie, then she should hide the truth. She gives fragments of lies to Blanc and she doesn't puke. After the interrogation, the family gets together for a while, with Walt telling her they want to take care of her. As she is about to leave that evening, she finds Blanc outside, and he tells her he would like her to stay by his side as he starts the investigation. The following day, they check the CCTV camera that shows her car stopping by the elephant. She quickly hides the video, and when they pass through the backyard, she sees her footsteps and she walks past them before Blanc can notice and covers it. Ransom eventually arrives, and the detectives try to talk to him. He says he isn't interested in any conversation. While the family waits for the lawyer to read Harlan's inheritance, Walt insists that his son, Jacob, was in the bathroom beside Harlan's room when Harlan and Ransom argued. This at first causes a fight between Richard and Walt, but Linda interferes and tells Jacob to say whatever he overheard. He says he heard Harlan mentioning my will and Ransom warning him not to do it. Ransom confesses that Harlan threatened him to remove him from the will. The other family members laugh at him, and his parents also tell him Harlan had made the right decision for himself. Eventually, it's time to read the will. The administrator tells them that Harlan left a letter before the will telling them that he made his decision with a sound mind and for the best reason. When the will is read, they find out he has bestowed all his property, including the copyright to his books, to Marta. The family scatter in anger, and they scream at Marta, accusing her of sleeping with Harlan. Blanc advises her to walk away, but she is too tense to drive, so Ransom helps her out. He takes her to a restaurant where he buys her food. Meanwhile, the family is still thinking of the best thing to get the money back, and Joni suggests the Slayer rule that a person can't get an estate if she is convicted of killing the deceased. They ask Blanc if he can get evidence of Marta committing the act, but he has none. The family agrees that they will ask Marta to renounce the inheritance. This decision doesn't go well with Meg, who thinks they should abide by Harlan's will, but her mother tells her she will lose her tuition. At the restaurant, Ransom asks Marta about Harlan's death, knowing quite well that she can't lie. She confesses to him, and he promises to protect her on the condition that she will give him his cut of the estate. That day, Blanc visits Harlan's mother to ask her what she saw. The following day, lawyers and journalists come to Marta's house. As she is about to escape from the house, she meets Walt, who confronts her with her mother's illegal immigration, which they have heard from Meg. She returns to the house and finds a half copy of Harlan's toxicity report with the statement, "We know you did it." She runs to Ransom with it, and they go to the laboratory only to find out it's burnt, and the only result is the one with her blackmailer. She also gets a message from the blackmailer to meet her somewhere. As they try to escape, the police and Blanc chase them. The police eventually arrest Ransom, and she leaves with Blanc, who tells her grandnana says she saw Ransom come back that evening. She goes to the location and sees Fran there overdosed on morphine. She takes Fran to the hospital and thereafter confesses about her involvement with the death to Blanc, knowing quite well that she will be disqualified from the inheritance. She decides to tell the family the truth, and she gives Blanc a copy of the toxicity report. As she is about to talk, Blanc interferes, and he tells the family that Marta won't be renouncing the will. He takes her and the detective upstairs, telling them he knew there was a hole in the donut, and he was sure the person who hired him had a plan, and the plan was to reverse Marta's inheritance. When Ransom returns from custody, he confronts Ransom about hiring him. He says he knows Ransom had seen Harlan's will, so he used the injection to switch the drugs so Marta will give Harlan a fake drug. He came back to the house the same route Marta had passed to do so. So when Marta thought she gave Harlan the real drug, she actually gave him the right one. When he realizes Marta is going scot-free, he hires Blanc to find the truth. He returns during the funeral to put the antidote he had taken away back in the bag, and Fran sees him. Thinking he killed Harlan, Fran sends the toxicology report to him. He sends it to Marta and then burns the lab to conceal the truth that Marta didn't do anything. He went to Fran and overdosed her, then sent the message to Marta, but due to his arrest, he could not conclude his plan by calling to blackmail Marta. He denies everything, claiming at most he will be arrested for arson, but Marta gets a call about that time and tells them Fran is alive and she is ready to confess. As they are about to arrest Ransom, he confesses to all he has done and insults Marta, but she pukes on his face telling him Fran is dead, but he had just confessed. He attempts to stab her, but it turns out the knife is fake. As he is arrested, Linda goes to Harlan's room and finds the blank paper. As Ransom is taken away, she burns it and sees the truth about Richard's infidelity. Marta asks how Blanc knew she was involved in the death, and he tells her there is blood on her shoe. She stands by the balcony looking at the family while they wail outside. Thanks for watching. Kindly subscribe to my channel to get notified when we post the next recap. See you next time.